I want to officially welcome to this session. Today is July 29, 2024. This is session 21 of Discovering the Essence of Nonviolent Communication with Jim and Jori Manske. I'm turning to you and welcome.
Thank you, Marta, and welcome everybody. Glad to be with you. I'm feeling happy that Jori is joining us today. I've missed her the last couple of weeks, and I'm also celebrating. We have some guests here. We have two folks from New Zealand that are also certified trainers that arrived yesterday, and they're hanging out with us for a few days on their way to North America. They're going to visit some places in the United States and in Mexico. So it's fun to have them here and to learn more about what NVC is like in New Zealand and to just learn more about them. How are you?
Well, I'm enjoying their company and I'm really enjoying the company here. I especially enjoy when I can see your faces and I have that sense of connection from there. And I also understand why some people might not want to have their screen on. So thank you for being here, whether you put your screen on or not.
Yeah, great. So the class today is on patience. I should have said the class today is on patience.
You should have said that slower.
Yeah.
At the end too.
Yeah. So
I didn't make him practice enough to say that.
we're gonna play with patience today, and we will do a couple of exercises. One, a self-connection exercise, and then we'll put you into offer you the opportunity to go to small groups where you can talk about the experience. It'll be a self-connection exercise that you haven't done yet, I'm pretty sure. And then we have we'll come back into the large group here and see what comes up for you, what people would like to talk about. And then we'll do the other practice and go back to the small groups again if you'd like and talk about it. Small groups are really the whole most important part of the class, especially today. There's not much to say about patience. It's just such a underlying feature, I think, of NVC consciousness. And yet it's an overlooked skill. And I certainly pay the price when I lose patience. And I've had a wonderful teacher to help me develop my patience, and probably vice versa. Yeah. We've been married for 45 years, and so we learned a lot about just being present and patient with one another over 45 years through parenting and having children together and having a business together and all the other things all the other adventures we've had. So is there anything that gets in the way of us going directly to a self-connection exercise? If there is, you can raise your hand and we'll address that first. Okie dokie then, let's do the self-connection exercise. And just start by looking around the room that you're in. Just get yourself grounded, orient yourself to your environment. It's a great practice for observing and presence. Helps your nervous system to relax. Open yourself up to getting the most out of our time together. And then just a reminder of the zero step. Marshall called it spiritual clarity. We call it zero step. Other people call it other things. But it's this quality of consciousness that we get to experience when we're living NVC. And it has three elements that seem important to me. One is the intention. In this case, there's an intention to just be present with your own experience, to connect deeply with your own experience. This is just going to be you with you. So set that intention for yourself. And Presence is the other element of the zero step, and this exercise will call us back to presence many, many times during the exercise. So you can just set this awareness of your presence right now. You're always present to something. You're present to the sound of my voice. Maybe you're present to what you see through your eyes, including the back of your eyelids, inside of your eyelids. You're present to your thoughts, images. Just cultivating presence. And when we focus on these two elements, presence and intention, there's a kind of a magic that can happen where we open to outcome. We let go of demand energy. It creates this virtuous cycle of presence begetting more presence. Intention deepening intention. Openness supporting openness. So this game that you're going to play with yourself has to do with the concept of urgency. You know the feeling. It's this feeling that we get when there's a desire to do, and we want to not do it in the future. We want to do it now. And it seems vitally important that we do it now. It seems to consume a lot of our energy. This when urgency arises. And so the exercise is designed to help you to get a felt sense of urgency. So setting the intention to notice this desire to do something. And we're just going to do nothing. We're just going to sit here and do nothing. We're going to take the advice of the old Zen master. Don't just do something, sit there. So we're just going to sit, and you're going to notice, unless you are a Zen master, that you're going to want to do something. You want to think a thought. You're going to want to write down a note. You're going to want to whatever. So there's going to be some kind of a desire to do something that will come up in you. The idea is that you catch yourself wanting to do, but not doing. And you label it. You just say, oh, urgency. And then come back to the zero step. Come back to presence. Come back to doing nothing. So we're going to do it for 5 minutes. Will seem very brief for some of you. They'll seem like forever for me and some of the rest of us. But I'll let you know when 5 minutes is up. So the exercise again, do nothing. When you become aware of the desire to do something, label it urgency, and then return to doing nothing. Let's see what we can learn. If you're just joining us, you're doing an exercise. Actually, we're not doing. That's the exercise. Just to be in the state of not doing. And noticing if the energy to do comes up. Label it. And then go back to not doing again. About 30 more seconds. Just noticing this feeling of urgency that might come up or might not. Then we begin to shift from the exercise to the next part. But take a moment to reflect on what this was like for you. Notice what your body feels like right now. Be present with that. Notice your mind. What's it like in there right now? If your eyes have been closed, you can open them up, and see what the world looks like right now. Martha's been busy doing while we've been not doing. Thank you, Martha. She's been making small groups for us. I'm going to put some suggestions for what to talk about in small groups for 15 minutes. Maybe you can do a few different rounds or just take turns answering all of these questions. What did you notice when you did the exercise? What did you learn? How do you feel right now after sharing that with your friends? And see if there's any requests that arise in you from now on. So we'll come back in about 15 minutes. If anybody wants to say anything here, you can feel free.
Mhm.
I wanted to join a breakout room, but like when you gave us that 5 minutes to kind of just self-reflect, I was doing that and I didn't realize that my laptop had like suddenly switched off. And then I was like, how is it? Like I have been sitting here for longer than 5 minutes. And then I opened my eyes and then I realized that, oh, this died. So yeah, I'm
So
just
your laptop decided to do the exercise too and just did nothing. Yeah, it supported you in even more mindfulness. Okay, it's a cosmic.
yeah.
He loves it when you laugh at his jokes. He's trained me well.
Yeah. Yeah, my laptop tends to do that. Yeah. I wanted to know, was there any prompts that you offered before people went into the breakout room?
I did, and they are in the chat, and I can just put them there again.
Thank you.
Let's see here, chat.
So
There it is.
Oh. There it is.
There they are. Everybody is coming, zooming back right now.
Wow.
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, good to see you.
Yeah.
I see new faces. Hi, iPhone. I know that's not your real name.
Chandra.
Hey, Planette, Guinevere. Yeah, Karen.
Yeah.
Hey, Fumiko.
Mhm.
Hi, Dale. Just
Good.
taking you all in.
Yeah.
Jeannie. Indika. Yeah. So notice how you feel right now coming back after having that chance to practice honesty and empathy. Notice how your body feels in this moment. And stay awake to that urge. That urge is a beautiful urge. That urge to create, that urge to do, that urge to serve life. And sometimes it can get in the way of connection. So it's just nice to cultivate awareness of that urge and more choice about it. So that's part of the practice for me. I'd like to know what you learned. What did you learn from the practice? If you would like to share anything about it, please raise your hand. We have time to hear from pretty much as many of you as like to speak. And we'll start with Brianna.
Yeah, thanks. I really felt joy doing that practice. I have a lot of mindfulness practices I do and enjoy, and I love the simplicity of naming just one thing and not even having to sort if it was a judgment or, what it was, and it was just simply an urgency. I found that really enjoyable. And I paired it with a little bit of breathing and then found myself ready to fall asleep. So my request was to sleep. However, I'm not going to do that quite yet. So I wanted to enjoy class.
You'll do it, just not right away.
Yeah, not right away. So thank you for teaching us that. I will utilize that in the future. So I'm very grateful.
You're very welcome. Thank
Thank
you.
you for sharing that.
Mm.
Somebody else like to share your experience?
It's equally interesting to hear whether something didn't work as much as if it did. So feel free to share your experience.
We seem to have eliminated all urgency for anyone to share, but maybe something will arise in a moment.
Thank you.
Waiting for it.
Yes.
I wonder if you, Leslie, really wanted to not be muted. Okay, there you go. We muted you, honey. But say hi to your husband for us. Yes.
How about a new voice? If anybody has never spoken before.
There, right there.
Yeah.
There's someone we have spoken to that
But
I'd
it's
love
been a
to
while.
hear.
Hey, Rosa.
Rosa?
I can't seem to lower my hand. Okay, there we go. Am I there? Oh yeah. Hi. Hi,
Hi.
Jim and Jori.
Hi, long time no see.
Aloha.
Uh,
You know, I there was a training once, I think it was Faye, that you had on when I think it was the Saturday, and she talked about that, like a fuel gauge. And I've never forgotten that. I love that. And it was about staying in that quarter between being really full and 3/4 full. And I notice when I have urgency, you know, it goes way down. My capacity for compassion and nonviolence goes way down. So what I thought about when we were talking was how I don't like having urgency because of that, because my capacity. And so I was thinking about, you know, upping my self-care to include like more urgency, keeping it away, kind of, you know, doing what I can to have less urgency in my life. And really upping the self-care to take the time for things like that.
sweet.
Yeah, so just to be able to recognize it and have choice about it.
And like, you know, there's situations I know that I will have urgency in,
of
you know,
course,
like certain people that I talk to in
Yeah.
business, right? And
Mhm.
so when I think about it, it's like I'm so used to just diving in and trying, and it's a whole experiment anyway, and let's see what it's like. And it's like, you know what? I think I want to move more to a lot more self-care,
Nice.
preparing.
Uh-huh.
Nice, nice. I
Yeah,
really
love
enjoy that.
Yeah, self-care is such a priority and it gets so lost in our cultures and our busyness.
These little brain breaks can be so good for us, you know, even if it's just 30 seconds of closing your eyes. You know, I mean, one place that I remember learning, I think it was from Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist master. He said, you know, there are lots of opportunities for mindfulness. Two that I can think of, he said, was one, if you're driving a car and you end up at a red light, use that to rest for a moment. And he says, the other thing is, I bet every single one of you, he said, it goes to the bathroom. And when you're in the bathroom, you could just stop. You don't have to do anything. You can just be there while you're there. And so those are a couple of easy ways to squeeze in. Of course, before we go to bed, when we wake up in the morning, there's these precious moments where we can rest and relax. And I try to build these moments of mindfulness in between clients or you know, different places in our class. You'll notice I'll invite people just to stop and do this transition. Just take a moment to be.
Yeah, I find that sitting can be helpful if we decide once we've sat down to take a moment, or after we've talked for a bit or been busy for a bit, And before we're about to stand up, just stop for a moment so we can just build that into some of our habits. And we're talking about maybe a minute or two is good enough. And if you have more space, that's great.
Yeah.
But, just even that minute of presence.
Can really build your self-care capacity. Thank you, Rosa, for the encouragement. Juliana?
So I've done the 0 step and heard about the 0 steps so many times. And today what came up so strongly for me is the first part of, my intention to connect, and how what you emphasized today, Jim, is connecting to my own experience in the moment, and how that was really about self-connection. And coming to that space of self-connection, going further, if I wanted to, into what was my need in the moment, Yes, need, and then just resting in that beloved divine energy of the need, and how relaxing and how refreshing it felt. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Juliana.
self-connection, it started with self-connection and how powerful that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Different aspects of that self and being connected. Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Jori.
Somebody else? Love to hear some more voices.
Don't all shout at once.
There you go, Pooja. Thank you, Pooja.
Thank you, Pooja.
Something came up as part of this meditation that I was noticing, like a lot of like the urgent thoughts that you mentioned, and the need to kind of act on those thoughts, like solve those problems that are crossing my mind and act on them. And then kind of while I was just watching them, I noticed that just being in 0 step, I could actually just take that moment to drop into the awareness of my need and act from that spacious space. Then just try to react to solve the problem.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
almost like freedom when you do that. Thank you for sharing that.
Beautiful. Anybody else? If you've been waiting to go last, this is coming up on the last person probably. Encouraging one more time, if you've never spoken up here, to have the opportunity to put your voice into the circle. I know it's probably scary for some of you to be doing public speaking. They say it's one of the scariest things in the world. But there's something so rich about getting clear on what we want to say and then saying it to friends in a safe place. Anybody else?
There you go. You got 2
Oh,
hands out
great.
of that. Way to go, Jim.
I'm a pretty good salesman. Go ahead, Georgia.
Yeah, hi. I've never spoken on this group, but I'm not afraid to speak up. And that's a little bit of my problem because I speak up too often and I say the wrong things. But that's all I wanted to say. And I really enjoyed being in the breakout room with my 2 people. So
I'm glad.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
thank
And
you.
Dean, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. One thing that I noticed and learned from this exercise was the variability of my capacity for presence. And tonight the brain was thinking, doing a lot of thinking about the exercise, thinking about other things. And it was not an opportunity for me to be calm and do nothing and clear my mind. That was just not tonight. But at other times in the same place, after having a similar kind of day, I can be very present and calm and relaxed and clear. It's very variable. My capacity seems to be very variable.
That makes a lot of sense. Matches my experience as well. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for putting words to that. Mhm.
Let's see, Dale.
So what I really enjoyed about that was noticing when you do want to jump up, and I hadn't got my NVC bag out with my feelings and needs. And so, the thought came in, oh, I'll just do that. Then, oh, okay, that's the urgency we're talking about. So I noticed that a few times,
Mhm.
and I found it a really good opportunity to practice the request of just having or setting aside 5 minutes every day to practice what we did today.
Beautiful request.
Nice.
Quiet the mind just for the next 7 days. And
Beautiful.
hopefully after that, it becomes routine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wonderful. Okay,
nice.
let us know what happens next week.
Yeah, I love that you would give yourself that gift. Yes.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
everybody probably has a tool that can really help you with exploring urgency. It looks like this. You know, this thing is like a urgency monster. For me anyway. It's such a fun thing. It's got so full of information. It's got Wikipedia and AI and email and text messages and all kinds of fun, YouTube and everything. And I've gotten into the habit of when I get up in the morning, I take it off the charger and I put it in my pocket. And I see how long I can keep it in my pocket.
Mhm.
And so it's like become a new game to reduce the urgency that comes up. So you might just keep finding different games that you can play because these things are designed to stimulate urgency, and so you can use it as a tool to heal from that, as well as the exercise that we'll do today. So we'll move into that now, unless there's something else. So just check and see if there's anybody else who wants to share before we move into the next little piece.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Okay, then. So today's class is on patience. And when we wrote the matrix, we defined it as remaining spaciously present when one feels stress. An ability to be with one's reactions without acting out of them. Easier said than done. So this is the pathway.
And probably many of you have seen this before, but it's still so important to hear.
So it seems like the way that our society kind of programs us or educates us is just to focus on getting what we want. And so we become kind of graspy about that and moving towards getting our needs, maybe even at any expense, or just completely giving up on our needs and submitting to authority, whether it's a parent, a child, boss, or whoever, just to kind of get into the habit of giving up on our own needs. And then we become aware. We become aware of, doing this exercise was a way to become more awake to this impulse to do. And it's the source of interruption. I remember being younger, I was kind of a famous interrupter, a debater. I always wanted to get my point across. I think it was a little bit of compensation for being smaller than other people. And in my judgment, I thought I was smarter than them. And what I had to say really mattered. And so I would interrupt them. It didn't always lead to much connection. Lately, I've learned how to interrupt in giraffe, which we'll probably have a class on that sometime soon, about how to interrupt without taking the floor over, but rather interrupt in the service of more connection. And but even during the awakening phase, we tend to react more than to respond. And that's perfectly natural, perfectly okay as part of the growth process. And then as we continue to deepen our understanding of connection and our practice of it, this idea that I mentioned earlier about openness to outcome starts expanding. It relates to this idea of range of acceptance or range of tolerance or window of tolerance, where we just become more open to whatever life is offering us, less likely to be reactive and more likely to just pause before responding. That's what we'll practice with today, is this third column. And then you're going to catch yourself. You probably already have, especially if you've been doing NVC for a while. There are these moments of natural self-connection when you notice the constriction or the urgency and you wait. You just wait. You have a willingness to pause and to wait. So let me just pause there and wait and see if anybody has anything you'd like to say before we move into the exercise. Okay. Exercise. Step 1. Think of a moment when you responded with reactivity. I'll put these prompts into the chat. Think of a moment when you responded with reactivity. And then consider, how did you know you were reactive? As you remember this moment, how did you know that you were reactive? This is about bringing awareness to physical sensations, emotions, and thoughts. How did you know you were reactive? What does it mean to you to be reactive? Start with that. Just being with that sensational experience of reactivity. If you want to put down the symptoms of your reactivity into the chat, that might support others in their self-connection, as we all learn from each other. I notice a clue for me is tight legs. The tops of my legs get tight, like I want to run. My jaw can get tight. If I have a particularly reactive period of time, my body will get exhausted. I'll notice a tiredness behind my eyes. What do you notice? Tingling in legs, shooting my mouth, heart beating fast, louder voice, stern face, heard yourself make a demand, grit my teeth, shortness of breath, mind racing, moving away from the other person, shallow breathing, tight shoulders. Enemy images, yeah. Wanting to disconnect, sometimes quite urgently in my case, get defensive, emotional urgency. I thought of what? Then the throat restricts. Yeah, when I keep interrupting and feel like yelling and not letting the other person speak. So bringing to mind that's a specific situation. Now we do the observation part. This time we started with the feeling and we'll go to the observation. So just to show that you don't always have to do things in the same order. NVC is a systemic process, not necessarily a linear process. So describe the situation. What's the observation? What happened just before you reacted? You can describe what you saw or heard or smelled or tasted or touched. So I'll be quiet for about 3 or 4 minutes while you write down the observation using sensory language. Take your time. Use the power of your memory. Got 1 more minute for writing. Next question is to go back and look at what you wrote and see if there's any evaluation. You don't have to do anything about it other than notice it and mark it. So if there's a judgment, a moral judgment that has snuck in there, just note it for yourself, maybe underline it or put a check mark next to it, something like that. Because the next part is actually to judge, to really enjoy this this great skill that we have developed. Marshall called it the jackal show. To enjoy this jackal show and to notice what you're telling yourself. You move from the feelings in your body to now to the observing, and now you're going to observe your own thoughts. What are you hearing when you tune into your own thoughts? And be quiet for another 3 minutes while you just write down. You won't have to share this with anybody, so you can be as jackally as you would like. What are you telling yourself? And start by writing that sentence. I'm telling myself, and then filling in the blank. You have to write it for every sentence, but at least once. I'm telling myself, and then fill in the blank. About 30 more seconds for this part. There's a technical term for what you've been doing. It's called suffering. Psychological suffering. And we're unconsciously competent at it. We're really good at psychological suffering, at judging ourselves, judging the world, judging other people. And yet there's some beauty behind it.
Mhm.
So the next step is to practice some self-empathy, to go back and look at what you are, what you wrote, and empathize with what you wrote, and to do it with a quality of warmth and resonance. So I suggest for practice that you write your empathy like a love letter to yourself. Imagine that you are just being your own best friend, And so if I wrote down, I can't believe that that she spoke to me. This is not Jori, this is somebody else.
It's okay.
I can't believe she spoke to me with that tone of voice. No one in my whole life has ever spoken to me that way. It was completely unprofessional. She was a real fill in the blank. Okay, so now how would I empathize with that? Oh, Jim, are you just feeling stunned and so surprised? Oh, are you just longing to be seen for your positive intention and to be seen as a human being, that you too have feelings and needs, that you have a tender spot? So that's what I would write to myself, something like that.
Yeah.
And to support you in getting to your needs, just in case it's helpful, there's a needs chart. And I'll be quiet now for a good 5 minutes while you write your empathy for yourself. about 30 more seconds for this step, unless somebody wants to request more time. You can put your request in the chat if you want another period of time.
You want to respond to that? Answer.
Okay, so now rest. Do a mini version of that first exercise. That's hard work. Going against the grain of our education when we do self-empathy work. So take a moment and be with yourself and notice the effect of self-empathy. Five minutes may or may not be enough. Might need 5 hours, 5 seconds. This depends on the intensity and state of your resources. Just notice the effect that you are experiencing right now of 5 minutes of empathizing with your jackal show. Discovering that underneath every single thought of blame or criticism is a beautiful need. Just a costly way of expressing them. And then if you sense that you've had enough self-empathy, you can move now to empathy.
When?
So now there was probably another person involved in whatever your observation was. And they did something or said something or didn't do something or didn't say something. Why? So now make some guesses about what motivated them to do or to not do what they did or didn't do. I'll put the needs chart back up so you can consider their needs. We'll do this for a few minutes, like a little needs meditation. What was alive in the other person when they did what they did? Thinking about, in my case, I'm imagining this person spoke to me the way they spoke because they really wanted to be heard. They were really needing empathy. They were needing some understanding of how what I had done had affected them. And they really wanted me to understand that. And so that's my guess about what motivated them. So what is your guess? About 1 more minute for this step. And again, take a moment to rest. Just let your brain take a moment to recharge. Use this as an opportunity to feel your body. Now, one last question before you go to small groups. I'm just going to give you the question and then invite you to go to small groups to talk about the whole experience, but especially this last question. We'll be in small groups for about 20 minutes or so. For yourself. Reconnect with the life that's inside of you.
Yes. Or the little life that's next to you, I see.
Just notice how your body feels after the experience that you just had. Notice the quality of your thinking. You can give yourself some warm empathy, acknowledgement of what your experience is, if you'd like. And celebrate the needs of yours that were satisfied during this breakout room, and also mourn any needs that remain hungry. And savor the beauty of those needs. And check to see if there's a request to speak up. I'd love to hear your voice. I have about 10 minutes or so left, and love to hear what's alive in you after this exploration around patience.
We're being patient, waiting.
Lisa J.
Hi, thank you. What really was helpful for me was the self-empathy, to really go in and explore what it was I really needed in that moment. With such sweet caring of just taking the time to do that really neutralized a lot of it. It was also helpful to empathize with what was going on with the other person, but it was really the self-empathy that was most valuable to me this time around.
Nice.
So I'm really grateful for a chance to run through that process again and to give myself some empathy. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Hey,
Thanks for
you.
trying it,
Yeah.
and thanks for sharing your experience. And Juliana?
So I just wanted to thank you once again, because the clarity that came to me, that if I want connection with others, like I was talking about the 0 step and the word connection, intention is connection. It became so clear to me that it starts with self-connection. Once I have that, then I have the power to connect with the other, the clarity of my need and the power to connect with the other person. Like Lisa J says, that self-empathy, self-connection is really the beginning. I just realized that of any connection I want with others. Thank you, Jim.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. It's
Thank
like
you.
gold.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Juliana. Tanya?
Yes, thank you, Juliana. That was really lovely to be reminded. Self-connection is always at the bottom of patience. And I was thinking a situation that came up for me, and I had a drug, a prescription filled, and they filled it wrong, and I called and I was put on hold. And during the being put on hold, I got a chance to really think about what I was reacting, how I was reacting. And I thought, I know everybody at this pharmacy are overworked. They're just driven to fill as many prescriptions as possible. And they never get a break. They get a half-hour break for lunch, and that's all they get. And then I thought, it's really interesting how I've been educated to, whenever anyone makes a mistake, to punish them with my anger. And I just think of Marshall and the unchosen thoughts that my systems of domination planted in my brain. And I just went, and I said, there's no reason to punish people with my anger, and with my, disdain or criticism. If they make a mistake, it's not, and so when they get on the line, I just said, oh, this happened. And they said, oh, let me look. And then they said, okay, we'll fix it. And I said, thank you very much. And it was very calm. And I thought, thank goodness I had those few moments to recollect.
I'm
and
8
not-
minutes away from the end of this call.
Whoops.
Okay.
Yeah, so you really you took advantage of what could have been a moment of impatience, while you're stuck on hold. We all have this story about being stuck on hold, and you actually use that as a moment of mindfulness.
Yeah. And to really think about who I was going to talk to.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I thought that insight about being educated to punish everyone who makes a mistake with my anger, and how that is, that's just how I was educated, and how horrific that actually is.
Yeah.
So I really learned something. So thank you for listening.
You're
And
very
thank
welcome.
you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm clearly expressing it.
Who else would like to be heard today?
Just want to say that that's the world I want to live in, where
Amen.
someone like Tanya expresses something like that.
Yeah.
It wakes me up as well.
Yeah.
Become more aware of these systems that are so hidden.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Leslie?
Yeah, I have a pretty good story. Like I went to the wrong place in Sanson Clinic to get my DEXA scan. They do it at 2 different sites. And I had this moment of, oh no, I won't get my DEXA scan. I should have checked the site. And it was all my fault. And the lady was wonderful. She just said, oh, this happens all the time. And then I asked her, well, can you call the other site and tell them I'm coming? And she said, of course. And she called. And after her call, her face just softened. And she said, Kim, the woman on the other end, she's so kind. And she said, there's no problem. Just go on over. So then I started getting a little bit like, oh, I better do it fast and not keep them waiting. And I just let that go because I thought, I'm 75. I don't see that well. I should just arrive safely and relaxed. And everything went fine. And
Wow.
I didn't have to wait. And she did it fast. And then I told her the story of how her kindness had helped the other person. And I asked her if this had left her behind at all. And she said, oh no, because you didn't wear a bra, you didn't have zippers, you didn't have jewelry. It was really easy with you. Thank you. It was so wonderful. They were all so kind.
Wow. Gratitude begets gratitude. Kindness
Yes.
begets gratitude. That's the
Yeah.
world we want to live in,
Yeah.
like Rosa said. Thank you.
They're modeling the world we want, and it's working often.
Soumya?
Thank you. I want to start by saying that I loved being in my breakout room today, and my breakout room partner was so present, sincere, and deeply inspiring. The second thing I want to say is actually ask a question that's been in my head for a long time. One of the goals or intentions of NVC, as I understand it, is to kind of facilitate the dissolving of enemy images through empathy and self-empathy. And my question is, where does intuition fit into all of this? Because for me, some intuition, yes. Because for me, sometimes it can be a jackal or a giraffe or whatever other version. And it really saves and helps me a lot in my life. Like sometimes I'll just get a gut feeling and that thing will be very life-saving and will save me from a lot of shit that's going to happen later in life. So my question is, where does it fit into the NVC consciousness?
Yeah, great question. I think for me, sometimes I experience intuition as the same or a similar energy as request consciousness. That there's like this feeling that arises in me of what might serve life. And that's the request. So my intuition is guiding me towards some kind of an action or maybe an inaction that my senses will serve life. And I think it's happening at a different level than the rational mind. I'm not figuring it out. There's like it's like coming from a felt sense, maybe a tuning into the field of awareness that's around me that I'm a part of. And I've also learned that just because it's intuitive doesn't mean that it's right.
Yeah.
That I still might choose to act in a way that ends up not necessarily contributing in the way that I thought it was. And so I want to be open to outcome as well. So I like learning to trust myself and to also hold myself accountable for the decisions and the actions that I take and see them as opportunities for learning. How does that land in you, Soumya?
It's making sense. And I'm also feeling curious why you said request consciousness and not needs consciousness.
Yeah, because needs consciousness is about it's part of the part that it's like a part of the NVC that's what's happening now. And request consciousness is from now on.
Now what?
It's like the energy of propulsion, the energy of, so the needs are so for example, if I connect to my need for food and I never eat, I'll starve. But if I connect to my need for food and then I have an intuition that, oh, that papaya would really be juicy and yummy for me right now and really serve my body, then I'll make a request myself to go eat the papaya. So request energy is the motivational energy of movement, whereas the needs consciousness is the power that gets ready to propel. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I'm gonna let it sit and stew for the new thing. But thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah,
Thank you for the question.
think
That's
about it for
very
yourself,
important.
and then maybe you'll come up with a better answer and you can share it with us next week.
Yeah, see what you learned.
Yeah.
We're all
Maybe.
lifelong learners. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the top of the hour here, the bottom of the hour in the subcontinent. And so we're at the end of our class today. And next week, we're going to cover responding to the reactivity of others. So it's like perfect segue, a perfect movement from being here, practicing patience, creating a little bit of space between stimulus and response. And then next week, we'll explore how we can be with our partners or our children or our parents or our friends or our coworkers or our enemies, and respond rather than to react. So that's what we're going to play with next week. Look forward to seeing you all. I'm going to open up the whatchamacallit?
The after party.
And the after party is just a chance if you would like to just keep playing with folks, then you can. And I'm opening it up on my phone. We won't be there, but if you'd like to be there, it's there.
Yeah, gives you an opportunity to meet with some other people, maybe process a little bit more about what you've learned and share some integration, things like that.
And thanks, Marta, for putting the link into the chat. Appreciate you all for being here. Go make peace.